Hey, what's up, everyone? How's it going? Kyle Henderson, Tony Sukalis, Tyler Waldrop tonight. We're talking Bama in the NFL. Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for joining us. Be sure and hit the thumbs up and like button. I think, Phyllis, someone's got like I can hear a slight echo, so I'm not sure if it's coming from one of you guys, but let's fix that real quick before we get buttoned up. I can still hear. It might be you, Tyler, maybe because of the echo, maybe of your speakers or something like that. You guys good? Can you guys hear echo?
I can't. So.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. Let us know if you guys are hearing the echo, and we will definitely, get with you guys as soon as we can. Bama in the NFL tonight, and that's what we do every Monday night. Tuesday is recruiting. Monday we talk NFL, and then Wednesday night I'll have my call-in show. And I think some news just dropped about the Big 12. So it might be like their schedule is in. So a lot of news, and news is always popping. But tonight we're talking Bama in the NFL. Thank you for joining us. I think we'll lead off the show with talking about players that have been opting out of the NFL. I mean, and it's interesting. The goal was to talk Bama in the NFL, and guys from Bama are now opting out of the NFL. And here's our touchdown list. Here's a list right here. So you have Dante Hightower, Patriots, CJ Mosley, Chance Warmack, Christian Miller, who is a new addition today, and Andre Smith. Tyler, we'll go to you first. You've been covering the NFL for us to start out the season. What's kind of your early observation about some of these guys that are opting out? And I believe the deadline is Thursday. Is that correct?
The deadline has kind of been moving as it's gone. As of yesterday, it was Wednesday, and recent reports today, it might have been moved to Thursday. Nothing firm has been set, but the NFL owners want players to stop opting out, so they want a deadline soon. So I think that should happen probably in the Wednesday-Thursday timeframe. The big shocker to me was Christian Miller. Just this morning, the reports come out. I mean, everybody else is kind of in the camp of they've already made their money or at least signed that second contract, so they're locked in. I mean, Christian Miller, still on his rookie deal, that he's kind of the guy that I think it speaks the most about that he's opting out because he has the most to gain or lose, in my opinion.
What about you, Tony? Kind of what's your early take on some of these players that are opting out, and if you have any, thoughts or ideas kind of regarding that? Because, it's something that's never happened before, but there are some players from Alabama certainly on the list already.
I think if I read right, isn't Christian Miller compromised in some way? That might explain it. I'm not sure. But like I said before, I mean, this is just kind of a decision for the players. It's not an easy one. I know Dante Hightower sent out a tweet explaining his decision to Patriots fans. And it's a tough time. And I think, some of these guys are in a position where they've, kind of worked their way to be in that spot where they can make a decision for their family. And if they don't feel safe, then, like I said before, I think it's just kind of a personal decision. So in a lot of cases, you look at Dante Hightower, look at CJ Mosley, those are key players to their respective defenses. And that's tough. But it's just kind of like, I think a lot of teams are dealing with that. And I wouldn't be surprised if, you're starting to see more and more of these guys kind of gravitate towards this. And especially, it's one thing too. I mean, if, you see maybe you're CJ Mosley and you see Dante Hightower do it, then you start thinking, well, geez, I know Dante, if he doesn't feel safe, should I feel safe? And then maybe they kind of spurs off each other and kind of snowballs a bit.
I think when you look at this overall, I'm curious to see if any of this will spill over to college football. And we've seen it in small increments. I mean, there was a corner from Virginia Tech that recently opted out. I'm kind of curious to see if there will be more spillover into the college football season. You look at some guys that, have sure shots to the NFL path, and are they going to risk it going to this season? And I guess it's something that we'll have to track going forward. Kind of when you look at the roster, you can almost kind of point out guys that have shots to the NFL that might not want to take chances with this college football season, depending how it goes. But it's something, that certainly we're tracking, and it's interesting to talk about. Tyler, there's a couple guys on the reserve COVID list: Shaheem Carter, Savion Smith, Terrell Lewis. Any thoughts on those guys? I know Shaheem Carter, Savion Smith trying to, figure out, their next move. But a guy like Terrell Lewis, you got to think should be safe, just considering that he recently did sign.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with sort of the breakdown there. Terrell Lewis is obviously should be the least impacted by this, assuming he either is healthy now or gets healthy before the season. I think the big thing, the confusing thing for some fans, and even for me looking at the list right off the bat, is being on the reserve COVID list doesn't mean you tested positive for COVID-19. It just means there was a chance you were exposed. You know, they traced it back, and someone you were in close proximity to tested positive. And so just to be safe, we're going to remove you from activities, and you're going to have to test negative before you come back. So it might not be a big deal for any of these guys, but especially for Savion Smith and Shaheem Carter. I mean, if they're out for 5 days, which is the minimum for asymptomatic players, and then if you have symptoms, you're looking at 10 to 14 days at least. I mean, if they miss 2 weeks, they're not really showing themselves at all, and there's no preseason game. So, I mean, every rep is going to be important for them if they want to be on a practice squad or a 53-man roster, if there's even a shot at that at this point.
Yeah, it's so hard to make a roster in general that you really kind of need the breaks to fall your way. I mean, that's just in a normal year. That being said, I think, teams might be more aware and more lenient and more patient with developing rosters, and you're going to see maybe some other players fall on the list too. So, I don't think it's necessarily like a death blow to any of these guys in terms of their chances. Probably terrible wording right there for me, but just in terms of, making the team, I don't think it's going to necessarily end people's chances. But at the same time, Tyler, I think you're right. I think, it could be that little bounce that the wrong way that you needed to go your way to make a roster.
Thank you for joining us tonight on Bama in the NFL on BamaInsider.com. Here's our super chat Hall of Honor. And basically how it works is you guys make this possible. There's a lot of you guys who have contributed to BamaInsider.com. So thank you very much. Right now, Randall Williams inching closer to that Club 100. That's over $100 threshold. So here's everybody from the box seats to the tailgate crew. We sincerely appreciate all the super chats on BamaInsider.com. How to get involved with the super chat? It's on the comment box. You just hit that $sign. And anything is great. All goes back to the staff. So thank you very much for your contributions on BamaInsider.com. If you're watching us, you don't have to super chat. You can simply hit the thumbs up button. That certainly helps us as well right here on BamaInsider.com. Tony, as we inch forward, and thank you for joining us right here on YouTube, or if you're listening to us on podcast, the Major League Baseball, they're having difficulties in terms of keeping these guys away for COVID. And, there's so many testing protocols. If you really dig deep, you see that Major League Baseball has so many testing protocols, and this situation is still happening. We're not seeing that with sports that are playing in the bubble. Do you think that that's going to have an effect on football? Because think about it. I mean, Alabama and their support staff, the NFL, and everything that goes into it. I mean, there's no way that you can play NFL or college football inside a bubble.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing. I mean, I think, when you're looking at it from a college football standpoint, you look more towards what MLB and NFL really is doing more than you do maybe an NBA. Just because there's no way, like you said, there's no way to get these teams. There's too many teams, they're too spread out, and they've got so many people on the team that it is football is in a very challenging position. I mean, look, Alabama's got 85 kids plus walk-ons that they've got to monitor, and if one person gets it, it could put a lot of people in jeopardy. So it is going to be really interesting to see, how they balance it. It's way harder than what basketball is doing, and I know there's more travel in baseball, so that might make it more difficult, but there's less people still. So both of those sports have their real difficulties, and I think I'd probably put football at the top. To be honest with you, you look at the amount of players and still the travel that they have to do. It's going to be a real challenge to get through this season. I think you've got some smart brains and some really good decision makers making decisions, and I'm confident in their ability to do so. But in the same breath, it's quite a challenge, and it will be a feat if this college football season is to go through with it. To get if it's accomplished, I think that'd be a real feat to everyone involved.
I think this is a good question from Jackie. And by the way, thank you, Jackie, for the super chat. We sincerely appreciate it. You're here every week with us, so thank you very much. It really means a lot. Jackie also posted a good question. If these guys don't play, what about the seniors that are going into the first 4 or 5 rounds? Do they come back to school? I think that's a really good question to think about. And a lot of these guys, I mean, think about the scholarship distribution. If somehow the season doesn't go forward, I mean, you're going to have to extend the scholarship number. So much to kind of dive into when you look at what could happen if seniors do want to come back. And a lot of conferences have already said, and I think the NCAA has said that guys will keep their scholarship if this season doesn't go forward. Right, Tyler?
Yeah, and I think you can look back and you can see similar decisions made in the spring with spring sports. Softball and baseball stand out, and teams had to suddenly make decisions. Okay, we have room for all these guys. Can we afford all of these scholarships? That's not going to be a problem that football is going to have to really balance out with. But all of a sudden, like, you have all these guys, what do you do with them? Because you can still only play 11 guys at a time. So playing time is going to be rough. I mean, depth is probably not something football coaches are necessarily afraid of, but it's going to affect recruiting at some point because guys are going to want to play, and there's a chance we're going to have a couple years here where there's just going to be so many guys. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. Hopefully we don't have that problem because the football season does go ahead. But I think you're going to see guys come back if the season gets canceled, if they receive a low NFL grade. Absolutely. Great question.
We're talking Bama in the NFL right here on BamaInsider.com. Thank you very much for watching. We appreciate where you guys are coming from. Excuse me. Let me know where you guys are coming from in the comment box right here on BamaInsider.com. Let's talk about, before we get to the top 100, Tony, we looked at the Derrick Henry. He was the Pro Athlete of the Year that was voted on by the Alabama Sports Writers Association. 2019 stats, I mean, 1,500 yards, 16 touchdowns. He just signed a $50 million deal. Talking about built by Bama. I mean, talk about a guy who really, emulates what some of these guys from Alabama are doing. Talk a little bit about Derrick Henry and him winning the Pro Athlete of the Year award by the Alabama Sports Writers Association.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I don't know if you guys are, but Derrick Henry seemed like a slam dunk for me to win this award. I mean, when you win the rushing title and you basically carry a team to the AFC Championship game, almost to the Super Bowl, arguably the best running back in the NFL right now. I think for him to win, Alabama Sports, Player of the Year, I think that's a slam dunk. I can't think of anybody else that I would name over him. So I wasn't surprised in the least to see his name as the number one guy.
What's your take on Derrick Henry? I mean, we've talked about it before, Tyler. I mean, everything that he's built of his work ethic on social media. If you don't follow him on social media, you need to follow Derrick Henry. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of work that he does. And that certainly showcases in the NFL on Sundays. I rewind to that play where he, threw basically 11 defenders on the ground and ran, 99 yards for a touchdown. Tyler, quickly, what are your thoughts on Derrick Henry? And we'll talk about the top 100 player list next. But I mean, so much to say about Derrick Henry.
I mean, who else was even in contention for that award? Like that, Derrick Henry should have been miles ahead. Who?
The golfer, Justin Thomas.
Oh, I mean,
for sports, it's not. It's my impression that it's an all sports award, right? It's not just football.
Yeah, so you're right. That's good to point out Justin Thomas. So I guess he's in consideration. But yeah, Derrick Henry deserved to win the award. I mean, it's hard for me to I don't know that there's a player that Nick Saban's had that's better represented what he views as the process. I mean, I remember interviewing Derrick after games, and Derrick, you couldn't get 3 words out of him about his own game unless he made a mistake. The only time he wanted to answer any questions was if he made a fumble or he made a bad read on the hole, he would talk about that. And otherwise, he just wanted to say how great the quarterbacks played, how the line played. He never said anything about himself and just worked hard. And I think you can see that that's paying off at the NFL too. Like Derrick Henry has sort of internalized Nick Saban's process. And I think that more than anything else is maybe why he's had so much success at the NFL level.
Let's look at this next graphic, kind of goes right into it. And this was the Let me take Jackie's very nice super chat off screen. This is the NFL Network Top 100 that just concluded, and you have number 10, Derrick Henry. And last year, surprisingly, he was number 99, right? And think about the jump. I mean, I think we can all agree that was far off. Number 11, Julio Jones, and just as Jackie said, that's where she's from, Foley, Alabama. Minkah Fitzpatrick, new to the list at number 35. What a career that he's going to have. What a season he had last year. Number 44, Mark Ingram. Number 49, Amari Cooper. 72, Josh Jacobs, who's only going to shoot up, you have to think. And then 86, Marlon Humphrey. What do you guys think about the NFL Network Top 100? Tony, we'll start with you first.
I think it's, kind of missing Eddie Jackson, right? I don't know. I think I'd put Eddie in that top 100, although there's a lot of good names here. If you're looking from the things that like that from an Alabama perspective that I would critique, I'd say get Eddie Jackson in there. I'd also say get Julio Jones in the top 10. I mean, the guy's the best receiver, if not the second best receiver in the league. He's got to be in the top 10 for me. I know he's just outside at 11. For the majority of the rest of the spots there, I think I'm pretty cool with it. But yeah, get Julio in that top 10, and then I think personally that Eddie Jackson should be in the top 100. Everybody else is kind of around where I think that they should be. I think you're going to see Josh Jacobs really rise moving forward. And Tyler in his 3-2-1 today brought up a good point that Kenyan Drake is probably somebody that we could be seeing on this list pretty soon as well.
Tyler, any thoughts on the NFL Network Top 100?
Yeah, I mean, this is the rare time that I think Tony and I are kind of in lockstep. Normally we disagree on everything. We're like cats and dogs, but I agree with most of what he said. So I'll just focus on Minkah Fitzpatrick, which Tony didn't mention. I think if I remember correctly, he was the third overall defensive back on the list, like the third highest. Richard Sherman was ahead of him, and Stephon Gilmore, obviously two household names. I mean, that's Minkah Fitzpatrick had an incredible run ever since that trade to Pittsburgh. And I kind of feel like at certain times this offseason, that's gone underappreciated. Maybe people forgot. It was good to see that the NFL players themselves haven't forgotten how dominant he was after that trade. And I thought it was well-deserved that he's right there with Richard Sherman and Stephon Gilmore as sort of the top three defensive backs. And I think he's only going to go up going forward.
Yeah, I think he's right where he's supposed to be, but I think he's a guy that you could see move about 10 spots up next year. Especially, he's got to show that consistency too. I mean, it's one thing to have a monster year like he had, but kind of develop into that, like you said, that household name. I think he's got definitely the ability to do that.
This is our Super Chat Hall of Honor. As you can see, these are the users who are contributing to Super Chat weekly on our shows, and we sincerely appreciate that right here on BamaInsider.com. Jackie's already moving up. Thank you so much for the contribution tonight. You can also join the loyalty program right here on BamaInsider.com. To learn more about that, hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. And, of course, you can go to BamaInsider.com and get free 30 days so you can read all our coverage. How do you do that? Here's how right now. Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson at BamaInsider.com. This is how to get free 30 days on BamaInsider.com. First thing you got to do, go to BamaInsider.com and click on the top banner. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to create an account, email, username, password. The second thing you're going to do is confirm your subscription. Make sure that the promo code is entered right here. It says promo successful, roll tide. The third thing you're going to do is enter your credit card information. It has to be valid, and don't worry, you're going to get that 30 days free. As you can see, once you've added a credit card, you're going to get the promo code. As you can see right here, it says $0. After that, you got to make sure and cancel within that 30 days if you don't want to be charged that $9.95. But hopefully, you're happy with all the coverage on BamaInsider.com, so you won't need to cancel. Once you're a premium subscriber of BamaInsider.com, you can access Andrew Bone's recruiting board. You can jump on the Talk of Champions message board and have a great time with thousands of Alabama Crimson Tide football fans. We hope to earn your business at BamaInsider.com. So there you go. That's how to get free 30 days on BamaInsider.com. And remember, Tuesday night, we got the recruiting show with Andrew Bone. That'll be at 8 p.m. Central Time. And then on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central Time, I'll talk team. And guess what? Got some more nuggets that I'm about to drop on BamaInsider.com. You do not want to miss the nuggets that I'm about to drop. I got to update this banner, but I'm telling you, there's no other website out there. And I know there's a lot of competition in this market, but right now you can get the scoop on BamaInsider.com. I'm going to drop those maybe an hour or so after the show. So go to BamaInsider.com, get that free 30 days and get those nuggets, get the recruiting coverage that you crave on BamaInsider.com. We talked about this a little bit, and Tyler wrote about this on his 3-2-1. today on covering Bama in the NFL, and that's Kenyan Drake. And don't sleep on Kenyan Drake. And Tyler had some good info, if you follow fantasy football out there, why Kenyan Drake might be a guy to definitely get on your team. Tyler, elaborate on that.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look back, Drake is not quite on the same pace that David Johnson was on. I believe it was 2 years ago, or maybe a little bit further back. But I mean, it was in 2016. David Johnson was on fire. He had 1,200 rushing yards, 16 rushing touchdowns. He caught 80 balls, another 900 receiving yards. I mean, just one of the most successful single season just performances from a back, and it showed he could carry the ball and he could catch. Kenyan Drake was on that pace last year, maybe just a little behind on the receiving end, but right there with the rushing, which I think is what's going to surprise people. But yeah, I mean, he was right there on that David Johnson pace for 8 games last year with the Cardinals. There's no reason that Drake shouldn't be able to do that this year as well. I mean, he didn't have an offseason. He was traded in the middle of the year, had to adapt on the fly to the playbook, the coaches, his teammates. Yeah, this has been a weird offseason, but he's had more time to get to know his teammates and the playbook, even if he hasn't practiced as much as normally. So there's no reason to doubt Kenyan Drake at this point. The only thing you got to wonder is, can Drake do it for that long, like that long stretch? And I would say yes, but obviously he did have injury concerns at Alabama. So, we have to see it before we necessarily can trust it 100%.
And he's going to get better as Kyler Murray gets better. You know what I'm saying? That offense as a whole is going to get better. The better Kyler Murray gets, the more defenses are going to have to shade to stop him. It's going to open up more holes for Kenyan Drake. Obviously, Kenyan Drake's also a guy that, excels at catching balls out of the backfield as well. So, as your quarterback, and they're a team that I think the offense is on the up, I think that could be a really big thing.
All right, as we continue tonight on BamaInsider.com and talking Bama in the NFL, there was a couple of other things that I wanted to go over. And I think, Tyler, when we look at the NFL in general and we look at kind of the rookie watch, you saw some early photos today. I don't know if you guys saw those, but there's Tua Tagovailoa, Raekwon Davis, with the Miami Dolphins. What are the expectations of some of these guys, in your opinion, Tyler, about their first year? We touched on this a little bit last time, but as guys continue to emerge in rookie camp and start working out, when you kind of look at the rookie watch for Alabama, who's kind of on your radar that you're expecting it? And I know you're probably going to say, I think you said last time when we talked, you said Tua was going to win Rookie of the Year, right? You remember when that was like that could be like the hottest take of the season. But kind of as you've dug more into the NFL, who are other guys that you're watching closely as we get into training camp?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Tua and Xavier McKinney are probably the guys I've mentioned a lot already. I mean, as far as the guys, even more, I think Tua is going to have a great year. But I'm even more excited to see how Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs and kind of the debate between which one of them is better, which one of them is having a more successful season. I'm excited to see that kind of go back and forth because I think one of them is going to have a great year. And, I mean, both of them might, but typically you look back at the trends, rookie wide receivers typically disappoint expectations no matter how high they go in the draft. It takes them a little longer to work their way into the system. Maybe there's established guys that just have too many targets, and you just don't see those guys quite emerge until year 2. But I think one of those two guys is going to have a great year, and both of them might. But those are the guys I'm most excited to see. Like when we get to the week 1 slate, I want to watch Jeudy and I want to watch Ruggs, and I definitely am excited to watch the Raiders play the Broncos this year because both of those guys will be on the field just about the whole game. I'll get to watch one of them, so that's kind of what I'm most excited to watch right now.
Tony, what about you? Talking NFL rookies that are from Alabama, what are you watching as we inch closer in the month of August?
Well, I had said Jeudy before, and I think that Jeudy could be like, I like that offense. I like the way he could fit in. But here's one to consider too. It's not really somebody you can necessarily watch, but Jedrick Wills. If you look at an offense with the Browns, they underperformed last year, and they have the pieces to put something together that could be really good. And one of the things that they needed was more protection. And I really think that Jedrick Wills might be that missing piece that allows the Browns to be what we kind of thought they were going to be. And so part of me says, like, I have a friend that's from Cleveland, and part of me says, like, it's the Browns, so it's inevitably going to go wrong, right? But there's too much talent on that roster, and I'm kind of thinking that maybe Jedrick Wills is one of the guys that really makes that team work, and we're going to see a real emergence from the Browns that we thought we were going to see last year. Now that I could be totally wrong with that, but if you're looking for Alabama players that I felt kind of landed in good spots, I really think that Jedrick Wills, because he's an offensive lineman, doesn't get mentioned a lot. I think he's in a good spot, and I think he can really be pivotal to them.
All right, guess what time it is, fellas? We got some trivia. All right, trivia time right now. Bama in the NFL trivia right here on BamaInsider.com. This one's an easy one. Too easy. This is going to be a slam dunk. Whoever gets this will get a $25 gift card to the Alumni Hall store that you can get Bama gear. All right, you guys ready?
No,
how many quarterbacks are in the NFL? And to win this award, you got to type out the quarterbacks' names. You got to type out the quarterbacks' names. How many quarterbacks are in the NFL that are from Alabama? Got to type it out. All right, give you a couple seconds. How many quarterbacks are in the NFL that are from Alabama? Got to type them out in the comment box to win the award. Let's see. Does anyone have?
Are we counting a certain quarterback that played for Alabama?
Yes. We already mentioned that he is part of the Bama fabric forever.
All right.
Okay. Does anyone have it in the comment box? All of our 17 viewers. I know someone out there has it. I think Tony can smell it. Okay. All right. Got to type it in. We'll come back and we'll wait for a couple minutes while you guys do some cheating on Okay, Jackie, you got one. That doesn't count. All right, Miss Beasley, you definitely didn't cheat. You're off by quite a large margin. Okay. All right, I'm gonna leave it open. How many quarterbacks from Alabama are on NFL rosters? You got to type them out. Use that keyboard. All right. Okay. Nobody's getting it? Someone's got to get it. Okay. I'll follow up with one of my guys here in just a minute. Okay. All right. Hey, Gavin, you're spot on, but you got to type them out. I'm looking for the typing.
First names.
Hey, Warm. David. You're off. Who's it going to be?
Close.
Someone's got to type it in. You got to type all the names in once. All right. Okay. Looks like Gavin is going to be our guy. So, okay, there it is. Thank you, David. Okay. Following the directions.
Gavin also had it in separate form. Let's give him that. Share.
Miss Beasley. No, Miss Beasley. We love the support, but no, this is the answer. Okay. So you have Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, AJ McCarron. All right, I'll take David and Gavin. Both email me, Kyle@BamaInsider.com. I'll hook both of you guys up. The call line is always open on BamaInsider.com. 205-686-3604 if you want to call in and talk about Bama in the NFL. I know a lot of people are talking about, the schedule, and that's what everybody wants to talk about. They want to talk about Alabama's football schedule and when is that going to be out. Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, we're kind of all waiting for Alabama's football schedule. We've talked about this before, and that's kind of the more interesting topic. I get that, and we'll talk about that. For a few minutes before we edge out of this live show. We're here with our team writer Tony Tsoukalis. Tony, we're all on pins and needles, awaiting for Alabama's football schedule. David asked earlier on the show, is it pretty much a go that Alabama will add Vanderbilt and Florida? What's kind of the pulse on that, and why would that reasoning make sense?
That would just make the most sense because that's like the next in schedule. I think that'd be the easiest way to kind of justify for each team. Elsewise, you're going to have to kind of create like some kind of metrics to make sure that you're not favoring it one way or the other. And I think if you looked at it this way, you could say, well, this was already the way it was scheduled. I think it's real easy to prove that there's no favoritism in this. And I think I just want to see Alabama, Florida. I think that'd be really cool. So from a selfish standpoint, I wouldn't mind a trip to the swamp, even with no fans probably in attendance. But yeah, so I'm kind of leaning towards Vandy and Florida. It's not definite, but I think, if you asked me to guess, then that would be the two. I think it'd be at Florida and home against Vandy.
Tyler, what are your biggest questions about this coming, not this coming season, because there's endless amounts of questions, but about the schedule? A lot of people are asking questions. Is it going to be Alabama and Georgia to open the season? What are some of your questions when we go into this about Alabama's schedule and kind of what could be in the 10-game only format?
I think the biggest question I have is, no matter which two teams are added, where are they added matters more to me than who is added. I mean, could you imagine if Vandy and Florida just added to the end of the season? That doesn't sound right. It wouldn't be right to end the season without the Iron Bowl at the very end. So, I mean, surely Alabama's not going to play the final SEC game against Vanderbilt. So, and if you're not adding those games at the end, are you adding them at the beginning? And if you're not, so Alabama's probably opening up against Georgia. Like, where in the middle do you fit these games? Because you have to do it, if you're just going to do it like Tony said and add the next two rotating East teams in, then you have to do it the same week for everybody, because that's the whole point. The whole point in adding those teams is let's not reset the schedule at scratch and have to go through the headache of, okay, Alabama's going to play this team. They're free week 2, week 3, week 4. Like, the whole point is you want to keep it consistent across the league. So that's my thing. If that's what they're going to do, when are they going to add those games? And I will not accept them adding those games at the end. So it's going to have to be somewhere else.
Can you imagine if they added at Florida to the month of November, where they're playing, at LSU, home against Auburn and home against Texas A&M? Oh my God. Can you imagine that 4-week slate of arguably the best four of the best teams in the conference? That'd be absolutely just insane. That, I don't know how Alabama would get out of that 4 in a row. It'd be crazy.
Yeah, anyone getting out of that slate would be tough to imagine.
We got a question here from Joshua. He's asking about Mac Jones. Is he NFL bound based on kind of what we know? If so, what round? I mean, Tony, you've been talking about Mac Jones for a long time. Take it away.
I think Mac Jones could be the best quarterback in the SEC. I think he's got a great offense around him, and I think he can really showcase his skills. And I think if Joe Burrow can make a transformation and really jump on some draft boards, I think Mac is in position that he can do that. Now, I don't think he's going to be Joe Burrow, and I don't think he's going to be the first pick overall, but I think he's a guy that might have a decision to make. When I say that as somebody that would want to leave after this year, so I'm saying first or second round. I think he can put himself in that position. I definitely don't think he's in that position right now, but I think if we have a full season, if he's able to put together the numbers that I think he's capable of putting together, I think he's going to open up some eyes, and I think he's definitely got some ability. So, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say, like, Mac can play himself into that late first, second round, the kind of thing as a quarterback that you probably would consider leaving. And I think he's definitely got the ability. A lot of it's going to depend on how much he's going to be able to showcase himself this season. So do we have a real season? I think if we do, I think he's got the weapons in the offensive line and the receivers to really put together some eye-opening numbers.
David's asking what's my email. So this is important for everybody out there. If you want to get free 30 days and you can't figure out how, if you have questions about the website, whatever, my email address is kyle@bamainsider.com. Very simple, kyle@bamainsider.com. If you have any questions. Can you imagine this? And I want to get your take on this, Tyler. The Pac-12 has released their schedule, and some of their front-end games were usually some of their last games. For example, USC, UCLA, Oregon State, Oregon. Can you imagine if the schedule comes out whenever it does, and you have Alabama and Auburn to open up the season?
I mean, on one hand, it's exciting that it's going to be it's got to be one of the crazier Iron Bowls to open the season in that game. I'm not a fan of it. I hope it doesn't happen. I don't want to see it. I think rivalry week, not only for Alabama Auburn, but I mean, just for teams across the country, I think it's cool that no matter how seasons go, like there's still something to play for in rivalry week. Like even teams in other conferences, like when Michigan's having a down year, playing Ohio State is still a big game for them. Like that still feels important to them. It feels important to watch. I mean, the Iron Bowl is obviously almost always nationally relevant, so we don't normally have to have any concerns about that being, a game that doesn't matter to both teams. But yeah, I mean, I think it would be exciting and fun in the moment, but can you imagine what it's like after that? I mean, for the team that loses the rivalry week game, like on some hand, you're just kind of playing out the string. I feel like, and even for the team that wins, like if Alabama played Auburn and beat Auburn in week 1, like what game do you put at the end that's really going to have that significance and feel like satisfying or that have that kind of tension and drama? And like, you could say LSU has been one, or maybe even Georgia, and those would be great, but I don't think they would quite replace the Iron Bowl. So I personally hope they keep rivalry week, at least in the SEC, that last week of the regular season, because I like that. That's a great way to just sort of end things for everyone.
What about you, Tony?
Yeah, I don't think I'd like that idea too either. I think that, look, football is it's geared towards building towards that game at the end. And I think if you have the first game being, say what you want, that Alabama-Auburn game, especially after a year where Auburn won, where the rivalry is really, it's not one of those things where Alabama is just on a roll of dominating. It's be anticlimactic in my opinion, just because I think you're going to be so excited about that opening game no matter what. It's like almost overkill to have Auburn there, so I don't like that. And I want some normalcy. This college football season is going to be weird enough. Like, can we just have Auburn at the end? And if we're going to splice up the season, can we put Tennessee on the 3rd week of October? Like, can we have that? Like, I'm asking for 2 things. That's all I want. Is like keep those 2 games where they are, and then you can play. I don't care if the whole month of November is ridiculous games for Alabama or when they play Georgia. I want Auburn last, and I want preferably. I think I'd like to see Tennessee where it normally is as well, just because I think those are just classics that at a time when we need normalcy, let's grasp on the little bit that we can control.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think everything's out the window. I think, I'm not expecting anything. I just hope we get some sort of football. I mean, any type of game I'm going to be excited for. And I think a lot of college football fans, especially here in Alabama, here in Tuscaloosa, will. I think what it's going to do if we do get back to some sort of normalcy, if we do get back to some sort of rhythmic pattern in college football, I think fans, especially here in Tuscaloosa, are going to be much more excited to see this team in action. I think for a while, Alabama has been so good at the top of the college football mountain that it's tough for people to really grasp like just how great it is to be a part of the program. So I think it'll kind of re-inspire that college football fandom that people love so much. I mean, there's nothing like college football pageantry. Tuscaloosa certainly has it. There's nothing like a Saturday in Tuscaloosa or a Saturday in Baton Rouge. And I think if we can get back to that continuity, having weekly games, people are going to be so grateful just to have college football. I know I will. I kind of want to end the show on this last topic, and I'm kind of getting off here because we talked Bama in the NFL. We talked a little bit about Alabama's football schedule. But I also turned this into a podcast, and I know a lot of people listen to podcasts today. Big news dropped on the basketball front with John Petty announcing that he's back to Alabama. Tony's covered the basketball team, for the past couple of years for us. Tony, what are your takeaways from John Petty returning to Nate Oates' roster?
Yeah, I mean, Alabama's roster is going to be stacked in a way that we haven't seen, at least since I've been covering the team. For a while. I mean, Alabama's going to have, in my opinion, a top 10, top 15 roster in terms of depth. Now, a lot of that is not proven, but I think when you look at the talent that they have from 1 to 13, I mean, it is absolutely insane. You have guys that may not contribute as much this year that would have been definite contributors on last year's team. I mean, I'm putting together I don't know if you want to call it a depth chart, but somewhat of a depth chart in short tomorrow on the site. And it's absolutely insane to look at some of the talent that Alabama has moving forward. I mean, I think the 13th guy I mentioned was Darius Miles, a 4-star recruit that was ranked, I think, 112 or in that range. And we're talking about basically a Rivals 100 kid being the last man on your roster. And then that's from my opinion. And I'm not, saying that that's going to be set in stone. It's just a projection. But I mean, you look at that kind of depth, it's absolutely insane. It's something that we're not used to from an Alabama perspective for a long time.
Good stuff, guys. I'm grateful for everybody tuning in to watch the show right here. It's Bama in the NFL on Mondays, but we also slide in other topics because we like to talk Alabama everything. You can talk Alabama everything with us as well by going to BamaInsider.com and simply clicking on the promo code, which is Roll Tide. You can get free 30 days to BamaInsider.com. Definitely want to give a shout out one more time to everybody in the Touchdown Club and the Loyalty Club. Touchdown Club on the left, Loyalty Club on the right. Thank you so much for being a part of BamaInsider.com. And here's our Super Chat Hall of Honor. People are inching closer to that Club 100. You got Randall Williams, who's been on fire lately in the Super Chat. Jackie, certainly taking care of us tonight. So thank you so much to everybody on the Super Chat front. But if you can't Super Chat, it's all good. Give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. That certainly helps us as well. Coming to you from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where we always talk Alabama Crimson Tide football on BamaInsider.com. Have a beautiful night. Take care of each other. We'll catch you tomorrow night on Tuesday as we talk recruiting with Andrew Bone. For Tyler Waldrip, Tony Zukalis, Kyle Henderson, BamaInsider.com. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.